aiming at an interstellar cloud, which is much easier to hit, but there is much more mass there in which these missions are diluted, and these capsules are diluted, then you need more. So depending on the target, it can go from grams to hundreds of tons. And the launch cost itself can go from very little to maybe $1 billion, if I estimate it. Now, that is something that I don't think would be done right away, but it is something that if, let's say, a government, we don't find a government like NASA and for various reasons to ever do it. Once you have an infrastructure in space, maybe the space colonies, space stations further out from Earth, deeper in space, but in the solar system, then it would be much, much cheaper and easier for just a small group of people who believe that this is the right thing to do. It will be much easier to do all of this. So we are, next decades or certainly century or two, we should have a significant infrastructure in space, people living there for various reasons. And it's much easier for them to go ahead with this project.
So how long have you come in your plans, and has there been any, if I put it that way, real interest in terms of other space organizations or governments or scientific groups that think, yeah, we want to try this out. We want to at least on a theoretical level begin to calculate how this would be done and so forth. I know that you've obviously done a lot of work on this yourself, but have you been approached by anyone who's showed more interest in this, Michael?
Well, I think that it is probably too early, and right now I wouldn't expect any kind of major organization like that. I do have a website where I invite people who read the website and agree to kind of join this group that I call Society for Life in Space, and to work on the various details of that. So I'm working on that. I just also joined, or was invited to join, an organization called Lifeboat. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
It's an organization where some very, very futuristic minds and very respectable scientists really looking at the various dangers to life on Earth and to humans on Earth, and how to avoid those dangers, and which people who have probably similar types of thinking on the subject. So I think that I am looking at something that may happen fairly, down in decades or maybe a century or two from now. And really, my objective is I'm not all that young, and this is, I would just like to, people who agree to the philosophy that we need to secure life and advance it in space, and who think this is, believe that this is something that we should do. I would like to people to work on this idea and to carry it on until it becomes a reality.
Why don't you
right now, I think that space, the major space agencies are looking at more immediate and practical things to do than that.
Yes, I understand what you're saying there. And why don't you give us some websites then? You have a group called, as you said, Society for Life in Space, or SOLIS, SOLIS for short. Where do people go on the web to find out more about that?
Okay, it's www.panspermia-society.com.
Very good. Panspermia -society.com. That's the place to go. Very interesting.
And let me mention also that I have a book at Amazon.com called Feeding the Universe with Life, Securing Our Cosmological Future, the title.
Give us the title again.
Feeding the Universe with Life, Securing Our Cosmological Future.
All right. Seeding the Universe with Life.
You look at Michael Mautner, and there, of course, it's all explained in what I hope is readable form, and it also contains, for the more technically minded, reprints of some of the papers, some of my papers on this related subject.
I would like to ask you some kind of off-the-wall, so to speak, stuff here, and ask for you to speculate a little bit as well, because one thing, obviously, that comes up in all of this, as we alluded to at the beginning of this program as well, is the idea that it has happened elsewhere. Life might have come from out there, so to speak, and ended up on this planet. But what I'd like you to speculate a little bit about is if you think that this scenario that you are talking about now has actually happened elsewhere in the past, meaning that another sentient life form out there might have come to similar conclusions and then sent their life forms here. So in the extension, or in the speculation way, we can say that we are part of them. We are the ETs, if you follow my train of thought there. What's your take on this, Michael? Have you ever thought about that?
Well, yes, well, that is exactly the hypothesis that Leslie Orgel and Francis Crick published in their paper in 1973. They gave some evidence. I think it was something that some microorganism need vanadium, some rare element that is not common on Earth but maybe common somewhere else, and so it's really very speculative, but this was exactly their hypothesis. Then again, it is entirely speculative, and it is possible, but I think that if I was to believe that there is life out there, then I would much rather believe that it has been brought here by some rocks or some other natural mechanism rather than an intelligent society. It is, again, we have to remember that life in space, there is not one piece of evidence today, not one piece, that life exists anywhere else except Earth. So now I think that we will know within a few decades, when we send the Kepler mission and then follow-up missions to look for signs of life in other planets, like an oxygen atmosphere, for example, or chlorophyll, that we can detect. We will know much better if life exists out there. If it does, well, of course, then we have much less worry about perpetuating it. I would still say that even in that case, we should still be sure that our particular form of life, after all, that's what we are, that survives. So one point that I should like to make is that we will probably not be able to find out for sure if there is life elsewhere unless we send probes there. But a probe, at the speed that we are talking about, will take tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years to get somewhere and send back a signal. So for a very long time, we will not probably know for sure if there is any life out there. And then the question is, should we expose life here to a certain doom when the sun dies because of maybe there is some life there that we would harm? So in my view, certainly, is that we should look after ourselves first, our life here, that we know that exists, and make sure it continues, rather than worrying about harming our external life. If there is, for sure, somehow we find that there is life out there, then it's a different story. Then we have to, consider that.
Right. Very, very, very interesting. In terms of, if we talk a little bit more finishing running up here with you, Michael, in terms of your book and so forth, seeding the universe with life, securing our cosmological future. Is there anything else in there that you discuss or that you bring up that you think is essential to this theory or line of thinking that we haven't really gotten into yet, Michael?